So this is the time of year when everybody wants to know what Velvet's doing for the upcoming season, and it couldn't be a worse time in the year to try and make a prediction, because other than what New Zealand's done for their season, we don't have a lot of information or interest. We don't have a problem selling velvet. We've always been able to sell velvet. The problem is that when there's a negative factor against us, we've seen a price drop go from $70 a pound to $8 a pound in a matter of 6 months. Unfortunately, we are at a place right now when we're watching, really, and this sounds derogatory towards our industry, but we don't matter. In the large scale of international trade, etc., velvet is not even on the radar. Okay? So accepting that fact is part of what we have to do to start. When you look at a $4 billion industry being kicked out of a country on zero evidence and political motivation, it's pretty arrogant of us to think that the people that buy our velvet aren't going to look at that and say, oh, Canada, not so good. So where we're headed this year, I've had a little bit of contact, and that's where I got that from. No idea on price. There is good demand. New Zealand's seen increase in price, but also, and I don't know, where is he in? Did he disappear on us? He did. I was going to question him on this, but I saw a figure. Usually we count on New Zealand being about 450 metric ton, and I saw reports that this year there was 700. So the fact that they were able to move that much means that there's huge demand, and how they increase production that quick. They do have anywhere up to 2 million animals behind the fence, depends on who you listen to. So it'll be an interesting season. Don't go grow everything hard. I'm not saying that at all. But cut it right, cut it early, and store it properly. Get it froze hard without touching any other sticks before you stack it in your freezer. And don't open the freezer. Once it's in there, cover it with fine poly, put a quilt on top of that, and padlock the freezer. Every time you open it, you introduce oxygen that deteriorates your velvet. If we end up with a longer than normal buying window, that'll protect the quality and hopefully protect the price. Ian?
Yes, sir.
New Zealand, 700 metric tons of velvet this year?
Yeah.
How did that happen? We're used to seeing 450.
Production per head.
Production per head is significantly up. I talked to Tony Pierce about a week ago, and I was clarifying numbers in all the different countries in the world, and that was what he told me, is that their production this year was significantly up because of the weight per head of the animals that they're harvesting.
Okay. And they sold through.
They sold everything.
So demand is obviously up.
Yes, yeah. And a lot of their demand is unfortunately in Korea, which is not available to us directly.
Directly, being the key word. Still where it all
Well,
goes.
yeah, we're not competing with.
Okay, so that really is all I have on velvet. Meat continues to be about the same. Even we are seeing a price drop, pressure being put on, even in bison. Bison lost $1 a pound here, ballpark. So elk will do the same, or has done the same. Awapco's still offering $11.50 kg to select people, let's say. They're buying other meat elsewhere for cheaper. No. Lacombe is still in the game. not 100% sure what they're going to be paying in the next short while, but they are still there. There is one other thing that I'd like to bring up. It won't take much time, but I had the unfortunate experience of being charged under the Wildlife Act a year ago. I read the Game Farm Act, and it says that if a species comes inside your fence or whatever, call the CO, he'll come shoot it. Tried that. They don't answer their phone, so I shot it. It wasn't an elk, it was a whitetail. Me not being a biologist, I said species, I'll shoot it. Called the CO, he came and picked it up. It was a tough winter in our area last year. We had 7 dead whitetail within 100 yards of our fence in a period of a week, starving to death. There was one the coyotes hadn't got to besides the one I shot. They took them both in, tested them, they were both negative. 2 days later, he came back and gave me a ticket for $2,800 for shooting the Queen's deer out of season. I thought I was in my rights to shoot it because it was a deer. It can get chronic wasting disease, it's a risk to my herd. But it's of the same genus, not of the same species. So, the whole year-long process is today, I made a deal with the Crown Prosecutor, because embedded in the Wildlife Act is a clause that rivals anything you've seen in a movie about Southern sheriffs. In order to escape prosecution, you can make a voluntary donation to a wildlife organization of your choice. And you will be exempt from any charges. You won't have your hunting license revoked for a year, etc., etc. It's a great way of collecting funds, eh?
Can you donate to SNC Lavalin?
I never asked that question, but I did ask. If I'm willing to do this, I want to donate my fine money to SCA to fund their research project. And because I think part of the delay tactics they used, the Crown jumped at it. So I also made them put in writing that this will be an option in the fine option program. So any of you boys out there get nabbed for doing what you shouldn't when you're hunting, consider donating to the SCA's live testing research project. And the lawyer cost me more than the fine.
Okay, moving on. We're going to have a small deviation in the program here because of some circumstances that have came up today. Canadian Cervid Alliance report is going to be very abbreviated. I don't know for those of you who are aware or not, Ian Thorlson was supposed to be presenting with Connie this afternoon on this. Ian has a medical emergency and has had to leave the conference. Connie's got a small amount of things to report on and probably more or less answering questions more than anything else. Large part of, I think, probably the more interesting part of the report that most of us would have been looking for was what Ian was going to present on the National Traceability Program. Like I said, I think what, in light of where we are with this, we're just going to open up the floor to questions. Connie will join me up here. As you're aware, I'm also director. Any questions that she might not be able to answer, I may be able to answer. Blaine is also on the board. There's things, you know, like I said, if you've got questions about what's going on at the CCA, we'll entertain that now, I guess.
For those of you who don't know, CCA is your national voice in Ottawa. Each province has a representative that they send from their organization, or in the case where there is no organization provincially, people who express an interest are then voted on and appointed by the board as directors at large. So we're represented right across from Alberta all the way to Quebec. We try to hear what you have to say. But if we don't hear from you, it's really hard to take your position forward. Case in point, with all the changes coming to the voluntary herd certification program, like Corlina told you earlier, we need to hear from that, and that is currently it's Randy Werekamp, myself, and Lucien Bouchard from Beaupré, from Quebec, are the three people that are allowed to sit on this committee. We had to fight hard to get a third person even appointed by CFIA. One of the points that I really wanted to stress with you on that point is there are a couple of points that are very important. One is currently under the VHCP, if you buy a piece of land that does not currently have elk fencing on it or high wire fencing on it, and then you put the wired fence on it, you can go and buy certified animals and become a certified farm. If you buy an existing farm and that farm does not currently is not currently on the VHCP, it doesn't matter what status of animals you buy, you will go down to an E. Don't understand why they're doing it, but that's what the current policy is. And your representatives on CCA brought that up to CFIA and said that that makes absolutely no sense. And CFIA's response to it is we'll table this for the next review. The second one was this ingress and escape of animals. Right now, it says in the VHCP that if an animal gets out of your farm, you must maintain visual sighting of this animal, and if you get it in within the first 24 hours, then it does not affect your status. After that, if you bring the animal in, you will lose your status, you will go down to an E, regardless of where you're at. The reality is that if an animal gets out and it gets dark out, you're not going to see that animal. Like, it doesn't matter what you can do. If you turn on the lights, they're going to bolt. So again, CFIA's response to that was, well, this is a very difficult topic. We're not going to get any consensus on this. We'll table it for another year. And that is a very frustrating thing for your industry reps. And what we really need is for industry to give your provincial reps input into these kind of programs so that they can then bring that to CCA when we have our board meeting, that your representatives that meet with CFIA then have something to base their opinions on. It's not just, oh, well, that's what Connie thinks. So it's really important that if you're on that program, that you read the rules that are in there and make sure that you understand what's a problem for you, and then bring those forward. We were supposed to have our last submissions for change in this past week, and I pled ignorance and said, we got too many regional meetings happening now, so can we get a 1 week extension? So we got now till April 10th to get all our submissions in and our concerns about the program as it's being presented to be changed. And even the things I noticed in the program, reading it now, they've already put changes in that we never even discussed. So if we're not on top of these things, we have, we're going to get blindsided in essence. So I guess that would be the biggest thing that I just wanted to share with you this afternoon, is that, Harvey's your rep right now from SCA on CCA. If you see things in the program or you're having issues with parts of the program, please email him or give him a call or talk to him yet this weekend and tell him that these are issues that you're having with it and these need to be addressed. Because we don't want to go into these meetings just, talking for three individuals kind of thing, what we think is best. So I'm open for questions if anybody has any. Absolutely.
Were you going to touch on traceability at all?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's my phone. Okay, the National Traceability Program is being was scheduled to be implemented and put into force by this year in the spring. There's been a lot of pushback from industry wondering how they're going to be doing it. We got an email I believe it was on Wednesday, that the new federal ag minister has decided that this will now be postponed by another year because there is concerns being raised by industry. It's kind of the gist of what they're doing. On the national program, this will be that you will have to put a federally approved tag, and at this point it's 2 federally approved tags, into the ear of your animal when it leaves the farm. And I know that Alberta has been having issues and saying that they would like to just have 1 federally approved tag go in, and the other one being an Alberta approved tag, and that would then be sufficient for meeting the Alberta requirements. I'm not 100% sure what your Saskatchewan requirements are for that, and Betty can talk to that much more accurately than I can. But that is just so that you know, this has been an ongoing project for coming on 10 years, and it just keeps getting pushed out to one more government, one more ag minister, it seems. So we're on top of it, but now that it's becoming more real, producers are seemingly getting more involved and speaking up on it. So for right now, the implementation date has been pushed back to 2020 in the spring. And Betty will talk to you now about how this affects, how the federal program will be affecting you here in Saskatchewan.
Thanks. So I guess we did have some concerns about transitioning entirely away from our provincial tags and moving only to federal tags. There was some suggestion that we should do that and move completely over to the federal tags. I guess we saw some challenges with that. We have tagging requirements within a certain amount of time after birth, so every animal has to be tagged, not just those that leave the premises. A lot of animals that are tagged with provincial tags may never leave the premises and fall into the need for the federal tags. We didn't have a lot of information to start with about what those federal tags would cost. I guess we like our provincial tags with the visibility, the fact that you know the birth year, you've got the herd prefix. It really helps with traceability. You can almost just look at the tag and you have your traceability information. You don't need to go to the database and look it all up. So we are reluctant, well in fact we're not going to phase out our provincial tags. We're going to keep our provincial tag system. We did agree that we would recognize the federal tags as an approved provincial tags. So if you wanted to move to the federal RFID tags to fit your management system and you wanted to use readers and electronic records, you could do that and they would be approved as provincial tags. But we're not phasing out our tags in favor of the federal tags. So if the federal requirement stays that they need 2 tags when they leave, I guess we do recognize that potentially animals could have 4 tags than there is. So that's not great, but I think there's some flexibility to manage which animals need them and which tags you use. Producers can choose a combination of provincial tags, which include the federal tag option, or their management tag. So I think it's a flexible and reasonable response, and from what we've heard so far from the industry is that there was support to keep our provincial tags, that they're seen as valuable as well. So always willing to hear other ideas and reasoning for it, but that's our position right now. Any questions?
In case you're wondering if you should happen to get some notification from the CCIA, the Canadian Cattlemen's Identification Association, they are the national administrator for cervid tags for the federal program. CFIA required that we had to have an administrator. CCA looked into becoming that administrator, but financially we just can't swing that kind of money. It was going to cost us in excess of $100,000 to become the administrator, and CCA just doesn't have those kind of funds. So we entertained an option or a proposal from ATQ, which is the organization in Quebec, and we also received a proposal from CCIA. In reviewing the 2 proposals, we chose to go with the CCIA one. So when you go to order your federal tags, They will be an ISO number, so it'll be 15 numbers long, and those will be the numbers that you will need when you move your animal federally, and they'll have to be recorded on your cervid movement permit for as long as the permit is around. Their cost is going to be the cost of the tag itself, plus they're charging 40 cents a tag after that. So there's not a huge increase on that. CCA has I've signed an MOU with CCIA in which we have agreed that although we have the right to charge for per tag, we're choosing not to add any extra costs to the tags for the immediate future. So this is kind of where we're stuck now. So if you do see anything come across your computer from CCIA, it's not a scam or any kind of misleading information. It is true that they are our federal administrator, but your provincial tags and the way you have to do things provincially will not change according to what Betty said. The tags that we use in Alberta, and I believe they are the same tags that are used in Saskatchewan. Alberta Agriculture sent the tags to SAIT down in Calgary, where they have this international testing system, and our tags failed miserably because part of the test is they administer the test when the tag is at minus 35 degrees. The tagger is at minus 20 at 35 degrees. The outside temperature is at minus 35, and so that the animal is obviously in that kind of an environment, and the tags just didn't work. The fact that we told them that nobody in their right mind would be out there at minus 35 tagging animals doesn't seem to matter. That's an international standard, and the tags didn't make it. We were successful in getting the metal tags approved as a federally accepted official tag. And there was quite a bit of work done on that, and Ian really stood up for the industry and said, I don't know where you guys are getting your information from, but this is what our producers want. And so, like I said, this has been going on for 10 years, and it's frustrating, and now it's going to be an extra year yet. So anyway, that's just kind of where things are at now.
Just to put that all in perspective, there were those of us in the crowd here that raised bison as well. Bentley, you're in this group too. It's that we've had this traceability system for over 15 years there, and it's been a very simple system for us. And just to add something to what Connie says is that I've had my approved tags that have come for my bison have also failed. They've fallen out. I've applied them in cold weather and they've fallen out. So no system is foolproof. But just to give you an idea how long the system has been running and the kind of delays that we've had for one reason or another to get on it, they said we're that far behind.
Is it the same tag as the Buffalo, like those button RFID ones?
That's one of the options.
I don't think the buttons were on the approved list.
I think that's one of the options.
Yeah.
Is it one?
One of the
Okay.
options.
But it's the one that they've approved. It may not be the same ones you currently use, I don't know, but there's an RFID button tag that'll also go together with a sheep tag that can go in there. And then the other the reason that some of the producers have gotten upset is that the only color that will be available is yellow. So if you're using different colored tags for different years or for different sires and stuff, on the federal tag will only be in yellow if you use a dangle tag, but it can be two metals. The other thing that will go away then is your H-of-A tag, like the one that now if you do any kind of exporting or moving your animals federally, they get that metal tag. That one will be going away, and this ISO tag will take its place. Yes?
So when you're talking a metal tag recognized by CCIA, it's not the H-of-A. What does that new metal one look like?
The new metal tag will be the same metal tag that you now get with the H-of-A, but it will have the 15-digit ISO number on it.
On that little steel tag?
Yep. Now,
I'll explain.
Yeah, you end up with 9 on the side that you see, and the other numbers are on the back side.
It'll be a two-sided tag, actually. You can get We talked to Ketchum about this, and you can get 8 full-size digits on one side of the tag. All of these tags are coded. There's a code to them. I don't know if you've ever seen these, Lyndon, but there's a code to it that says here's what the country is, here's what the species in, and that is, and then you get your individual number on that. So the back side of the tag is one that says it'll be Canada, it'll be an elk, and I'm not sure what else is standard information. And the front side of it will have all of your other 9 numbers on there.
So is that, you talked about 2 identical tags each year with the same number in both years. That is also part of it?
Yes, what is being done right now is that you have a tag. You essentially have a tag and a backup, and they both need to be applied to the animal.
Plus the Saskatchewan dangle for visual ID.
Plus, yeah, whatever. This all falls outside of anything that the province does with the management of tagging. What this says is that when that elk or deer leaves your PID, it has to have a tag in the ear. Up until that time, or the 2 tags, it must carry that tag when it leaves. Two tags, a tag plus a backup. It must carry, but do not have to be put in until that time. So, for example, if you've got a farm with a hunt preserve on that same premise, the same PID, you will not be showing that animal left your farm. It traces out that it never left. It's to trace the movement of the animal from point A to point B to C to D, wherever it went from there.
One of the requests that came in was to see whether or not the individual provincial herd letters, or so like, I'll just use our farm for example, ASU, and then our animal number is 5. That could also be incorporated onto the Ketchum tag so that you have both of them on. There's discrepancy in the information coming forward. CCI says they talked to the manufacturer and they said it's not possible. Someone from Alberta Agriculture called them and they said it is possible. So I don't know if it is or isn't, but they that's kind of where we're at, and it's and this isn't something that's just being imposed on cervids. This is all livestock across Canada will be now subject to Section 15 under the Health Animals Act, and that's what's precipitating this whole conversation.
But it'll be at least another year.
It's going to be at least another year. So no fretting at this point. Just want to say thank you to SCA for your support for CCA. It's meant a lot to have your financial support, because you've also lobbied your government for funding to support some of our programs. So thank you very much for that. We can't do it without you. We're starting a new board year, a new membership year now. So we look forward to lots of you joining SCA, because that's what bases the contribution that then goes forward to CCA. So thank you very much to all of you for your contributions, and please give us your feedback and your things that concern you on a national level, because that's what we're there for. Your provincial organization is here to work on your provincial issues. We look at the ones that go across provincial lines. So thank you again very much for having me here this weekend, and for all your support. So thanks.
Okay, coming down the home stretch here, we just got a few short reports on some of the things in the industry. Harley Maurer is going to give us an update on what's going on in the meat industry.
First off, I'd just like to ask for your mercy, because this is going to be a venture for me here. This is my first presentation in 56 years. Life has been good up until now. And when it comes to technology, I don't know most of that either, so.
Supposed to imagine the crowd is all naked, Harley.
No.
I could never understand.
I don't want to imagine that.
Ew.
And I'm just gonna read off my notes that I prepared a couple days ago, so. Slide 1 here, Saskatchewan. Oh, first off, I'm Harley Mauer. We raise elk at Newdorf, Saskatchewan, if anybody doesn't know me. And I'm on the board of directors for WAPCO. Our president and Cindy, our office lady, couldn't make it, so I got stuck with this job at the last minute. So, slide 1 here, Saskatchewan producers were offered shares in the co-op starting in 2006. Of the 122 WAPCO members, there are 21 members from Saskatchewan. Of those 21 members, there are 10 still raising elk, with 2 managing positive premises now, I guess it is, possibly a 3rd one shortly. Slide 2, this graph here is just showing the prices the WAPCO has paid going back to the beginning of times in 2001. You can see back then we started around $4 a kg, slipping a bit until 2010, where we've steadily climbed till $11.50 a kg, where we are today. Prices are expected to hold for definitely up until the June runs. But in today's world, as we all notice, anything can happen any given day. Slide 3, this chart here just gives us the total numbers of WAPCO has slaughtered for the corresponding years in pink. The pink bar includes elk from Alberta and Saskatchewan, from all sources being the WAPCO members, non-members, and CWD depopulated herds. Then the blue bar represents Alberta members only. Green bar represents Saskatchewan members only. So for example, in 2018, Saskatchewan members delivered 237 head. However, there were another 47 head that came from Saskatchewan non-members, plus another 142 head from Saskatchewan CWD depopulation herds, for a total of 426 Saskatchewan head in 18, which is about 27% of the 1,566 total that we've done in 18. So then the total of the Saskatchewan deliveries from all sources and Alberta deliveries should equal the pink bar. That's all that is. Slide 4 shows us the total number of positive elk slaughtered out of the corresponding year's total numbers of head slaughtered. The next column just beside is the number of positives from CWD depop herds, numbers alone. Then underneath, the numbers are converted to a percentage value. As you can see, there isn't a large number of animals testing positive in our farmed herds. And in most cases, one animal is found through submitting a head after death on the farm, or at slaughter, and that is the extent of the problem. Our surveillance programs are working for those in doubt. However, the sad part is seeing those affected herds being depopulated instead of being managed, which hopefully changes with the tools and knowledge that we've been presented this weekend. This chart here, you should have hopefully got a handout by now. It just shows the average weights that have been coming to slaughter. And then I've added the price that we paid this year on the right-hand side, if you can read it, and what those animals are actually worth on average. Something I did find a bit interesting is in comparing the bulls being slaughtered in July versus slaughtering the same age group 6 months later in January and February. The difference in price being paid may be due to a couple different factors though. The bulls haven't recovered from the rut even though we fed them for a few extra months. And it might just be that it worked out this way due to the animals that the producers have shipped during these particular times. But as we probably know already, you may as well have shipped in July. Saved yourself some pasture, saved yourself some work and feed as well. Yeah, just to acknowledge Alberta livestock specialist Jason put most of these slides together here. And then just a little bit of other information I don't have on the slides. 2019 update, and I did these numbers on March 25th. Alberta and Saskatchewan numbers. So far this year, we've slaughtered 384 on regular kills, 3 runs, 67 head from the Saskatchewan Depop herd on 1 run, 83 head in the US, 2 runs there, for a total of 534 head as of the 25th. Now saying that on the 28th, it sounds like everything went okay. 115 head from the CWD herd was slaughtered on the last Thursday, and another 25 head just regular run down in the States. So total kills this year are 674 head. A few additional notes. So far we've had a good start to the total numbers of animals being slaughtered this year. And for the first time in a long time, we'll actually have some product ready for sale for the beginning of barbecue season, which hasn't happened in a long time. So it should sit well for us. We had 2.4 million in sales in 2018, with 305,000 in retained earnings. For anybody questioning, we still have the $1.2 million share equity sitting there, which we use for operation. 1,867 elk were slaughtered in Alberta in 2018 in total, with 1,566 coming from Awapko, 27% again from Saskatchewan. So all I have to say is, any producers that have any elk out there and have space, please put your bull in there and start breeding. If there was 1,000 elk to slaughter tomorrow, Awapko would definitely take them. I can't promise the price will stay where it is forever, but I also don't see a big reason why it should drop a lot, other than the buys and inventory may weigh us down a little bit. That's about it. Any questions?
Yep. You've got a bunch of depopped animals in there at about $8.50 a kg. What are you paying for the animals in the U.S.?
We are paying, and I never converted it into kg price, in the $3.50 range, US.
Okay. So if something happens to that subsidy from the depop animals, you get competition in that area.
Sorry, repeat that, Blaine?
If you get competition in the depopulation area, it will probably affect the price overall, will it not?
You mean bring the price up on the depop?
No, bring the price down on the other animals. If Awapko doesn't have as many depop animals to kill at a lower price, can they still pay the $11.50?
Absolutely. As far as I see it, yeah. And yes, it's been mentioned before that the depop animals are paid a lower price, and they are. There's no doubt about it. And it's only due to Awapko incurring more expenses. We lose the offal. There's tracking tags to put in. It's just other expenses. And then we also have to weigh the risk of, without knowing, bidding on these herds, how many positive animals carcasses are we gonna lose? So it's, you know, sometimes there isn't a positive in the group, and we probably could have paid a little more. The next time there might be more, so.
What, do you know the results of the last herd that was slaughtered?
On Thursday?
Yeah.
Probably not yet.
Are you, if a member who is on his own, he's not on the herd certification program, and has CWD, is a WAPCO not going to take his elk
Sure they will.
at the regular price?
No, we won't take any depop animals probably at a regular price,
Not
right?
even from members?
Well, from members?
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood you.
Like if your herd goes down,
If
you're
my
going to
herd goes
take
down?
less than $11.50?
It's somewhat based on, has a producer been supporting WAPCO for, since beginning of time or whatever, right? How many animals?
I
'Cause
don't know.
we have
I don't
done, we
know
have
if
done
that
both.
should be a factor, but I mean, being a
No, a
member should
depop herd
be,
is
I
done
think.
by the bid system. What Bentley's asking if it's a depop herd, are you not, Bentley?
The depop herd, Bentley?
Yeah, like, but it's, you're not with the government, you're dealing with, like, for your herd example, you know? If you get CWD and you want to ship some to Watco, are you gonna get $11.50?
I would hope I get 1150, no guarantees though.
It's not a WAPCO, it's CFIA. If they're paying compensation,
No, no,
CFIA
he's
will
talking
pay.
about you.
No, CFIA's out of the picture.
He's talking about a surviving herd.
Okay.
No, we probably would not pay 1150. I'm on the program. I don't have a positive premise, right? So,
No,
But if I'm not on the program, I'm a member, so I wanna take my animals to a Watco, they agree. You're dealing with me, you're not dealing with CFIA. I wouldn't get $11.50?
but you have a positive premise?
Well, yeah, I will have, if I did.
Yeah.
I don't, but if I did, say, and I
I
want
would-
to
I
ship
would-
all my cows.
I would say you won't, Bentley,
I was told
just
not.
because of the risk.
Yeah, the risk and the cost incurred to get the Saskatchewan animals over to Beaufort, to Fort McLeod. You won't be getting full pop for sure.
Well, yeah, but that expense is mine if I'm hauling them over there.
No, it's
Call
No,
ours.
we lose,
It's the paperwork and the radio tags,
Yeah.
it's cost incurred at the WAPCO that they have to do. They have to align the kill floor differently for these positive animals. Because they're from Saskatchewan and because they're coming from a positive farm, there's other reasons for it. So
well, thanks, Gord, because you have more experience with that than I do, so, yeah.
Okay.
But Bentley, you're gonna be able to ram-all test those animals, and then you'll know if they're clean before you ship them.
Oh, nobody's gonna recognize that, especially not Alberta.
Yeah, well, I get.
But a Watco
if the
might.
Watco recognizes that. and they
Well,
might.
that'll be the next step. You've got something, you'll have something in your hand that says, hey, we tested these and
Well, I guess if
didn't
it's
find
the
them.
difference between $11.50 and $5, I would, you'd do the test, wouldn't you?
I would guess it'd be around 9 to 10.
But they pay
I would guess
members.
somewhere in there.
And Bentley, I actually haven't had a lot to do with the number that we're setting on the bid. That's been more Cindy and Gerald and,
Yeah, anyhow, no,
Some
but
herds
you've
like that.
answered my question, good enough, I'm happy with
Okay.
that.
The other thing is, I don't know how many of you guys have yak in the herd here, but down the road, we will be getting into that business.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
Where does all the meat go?
95% of it is being distributed in the United States and being used there. Hopefully, we can get a little bit more going into Canada this year with the barbecue season. So.
What are you doing with like the offal? Like you were saying,
Yeah,
or the offal?
It gets sold for a
Yeah.
value of probably about $40 per head. And that's where we run into issues on a positive herd. We don't necessarily save the offal.
Yeah. So that's going for dog food or?
No, actually,
They've got different markets. I remember from previous years. I wasn't at the meeting last year, so there's different markets that Oahu has got for offal, and it depends on trim. There's different prices they're able to market to different markets, and depending on what those markets will bring at different times,
Will depend on what they can get for the animals. So there is still risk when they purchase to what they can sell for, because they're when they're on the market, they're not a set price to start with.
And just on a side note here, like those Ramo samples that you collected at the slaughter plant a while back there, even there, because they had to pull people off the kill line to take these samples, a WAPCO forfeited the awful value there. So
Well, you can't use the awful off.
that wouldn't have been any help. But if it was to be, that we're gonna collect rectal samples from every animal going through the plant, somebody would have to change them.
Well, it could be subsidized by the program.
Yeah, yeah. So,
It can't cost more than $1 or $2 to get a second tank. You're taking the fizzles in the year.
yeah, just takes more people.
Those prices you quoted, $11.50, that's minus shipping, that's not at the farm gate cost.
That's right. And all I can say is, any more questions? Thank you.
Okay, a couple more items left to go with the dwindling crowd. Blaine gave an update on Velvet yesterday. Did anybody miss it, or does anybody want to hear that one again?
Not much to hear.
Not much more to hear?
They can always
I
look it
did,
up later.
I did contact one of the buyers last night and got a bit of a response, but just that
So just give it a second.
Just that he would be buying this year. That's all he said.
Okay. All right. Lance, are you ready? Lance Miller's going to give us a little bit of an update on what's going on the hunt farm. Last presentation.
Well, I'll keep this short. I got informed at lunch that I was doing this, so not very prepared, but anyways, shoot from the hip a little bit. Yeah, we do the hunt, we run a hunt ranch in Saskatchewan here. We started back in 2010. We shot about 3 deer that year. And now we're shooting around 100 a year. And I think the market is good. I think that you could have a lot more deer farmers in the province. We don't do elk, so I can't really comment on the elk side of things, but I just know as far as deer, there's a shortage of deer. And you know, when you look at what Texas is doing, how many hunts they're running every year, I think there's a huge upside in the province for what we can do here. Saskatchewan is still considered the #1 big game, basically capital of the world. I mean, if you go to elk or deer or anything, people still want a Saskatchewan-based, or Canada for that matter. I mean, they still want to come north for their trophies. They're bigger, and it was sold well back in the 80s or whenever it was, and it still carries a lot of clout. A lot of people, their bucket list is still to come to Saskatchewan and shoot a big deer, big bull, whatever it is. So with that being said, I don't know what else there's to say. I think the future is very bright, and yeah, that's about all I got. Any questions? Thanks.